If Ron Burgundy wants sliders, Ron Burgundy gets some sliders. And in today's episode, we build him some of the most aggressive DIY custom set of rock sliders. So you at home, don't go anywhere, stay watching, and remember to stay classy.
Proudly supported by Superior Engineering, Diesel Conversions Australia, and in part by...
Now, firstly, I'll say that sliders are extremely important on a full drive if you are going to be doing some wheeling. They protect the whole side of your car. You could easily smash the whole bottom end of your car in off just a tiny little rock. So sliders are extremely necessary, which is why we are doing them. Now, the reason that I really like this kit is because it allows you to fully customize the slider and make it exactly how you want it on the car. I personally don't really like a lot of the off-the-shelf brand sliders. I think that they look a little bit too much like a sidestep. I like the competition style, which is why I always like making my own. I've done this about 3 or 4 times now through DIY Customs, and I feel like it is the best way to do it. Now, the beauty of it is everything is pre-notched and pre-bent, saving an absolute crap ton of time. If you were to try and bend all this up and notch it, not only do you need special equipment, but it would take like at least probably 17 years to do all that. And the price of it isn't actually that bad. Like, it might seem like it's expensive, but by the time you go out and buy a notcher, a hole saw, you probably use 2 or 3 hole saws. You need cutting fluid, potentially a bandsaw. Like, a grinder's pretty much not going to cut it unless you don't care too much about how everything fits up. What I'm trying to say is, price-wise, I think these are super competitive with building your own set from scratch. I mean, if you've got all the equipment at home, then by all means, build a set, but it's going to still take a long time to get to this point where we are just going to assemble it on the bench, stick it together with the welder, and then put it on the car. It's quite simple. They've definitely taken the hard work out of it. So with everything laid out, you can kind of see the direction I'm going already with the slider. We've got the kick out hoop, we've got the main hoop, and we've got our rails. Now, the good thing is with these intermediate pieces, we can go ahead and customize however many runs we want to do, and then we can go ahead and completely customize how this is going to mount onto the car. So we can angle it up, we can sit it flat. You can literally do whatever you want. It does not matter. Now, they've actually gone ahead and changed their chassis brackets, which is awesome. They are now a universal one, so you can see you can do a chassis that wide, or you could go down to a really skinny one, and then the height is slotted, so it's fully adjustable, and you can basically just notch it however you want. Now, there's a few different starting designs that you can pick. I've gone with what's called the kicker style. You can do a double kicker style, so you can have 2 of these hoops, and one goes down here like that. So you can have a double kicker, or you could just have a traditional slider where this hoop just continues along all the way to there. So there is a few different options for you to pick from. So now I'm going to design the slider. I say design, but it's really like just assemble it. It's kind of already designed. Hey Siri, what's 960 divided by 4?
You're an idiot.
So every 240, I'm going to scribe a little notch. So it kind of works out that my gaps are 230 from the center of each bar. And then on the last one, I've just gone 230 again, 230 again, 230 again. And that has worked out perfectly. Now it's time to get the welder out and start tacking this together. I'll tack the main hoops first, then we can go ahead and tack the center runs in. Right, I flipped it over and I'm going to be tacking the other side. That is just to add a little bit more structure. Then I'll start doing the full welds, and I'll kind of weld over here, then in the middle, then over this side, and back to that side, and try and transfer the heat around as much as possible. Right, that's the first one done and it looks friggin' awesome. Now, when I weld, I do from the center down on each way. There's a few different ways you could do it. I just find that that is the easiest rather than trying to weld right up and around and down. It also helps because you can control the heat a little bit more. Now, we did get a little bit of warpage, but not too much. You just got to be careful with the heat, otherwise you can end up with a banana slider. Sounds tasty, but it looks bad, so watch out for the heat. The other thing I highly recommend is get yourself some anti-splatter. Now, anti-splatter stops the little balls like this. I don't know if you guys can see that. That is a bit of splatter that has landed back up and stuck to the metal. So anti-splatter the whole thing, and then weld one side, then anti-splatter the whole thing again before you flip it back over. Otherwise you end up with all these little balls in it. I don't know if you guys can see that there, right there. But yeah, that's that one done. I'm going to recreate that with the leftovers on the bench. The good thing is they are a mirror image, so you just copy it exactly and then you put it left and right. I'm going to get that one onto the bench, copy it, weld it, throw you guys on a time lapse, and we'll see you in a sec.
If you're sitting at home and you're thinking about getting into some modifying of full drives, then I definitely think you should invest in a welder. None of my projects would be possible if I didn't own a welder. And doing a set of sliders is probably the best place to start. It doesn't really matter if the welds look bad because, well, you're not going to see them. And because everything fits up good, it's relatively easy to weld. But I think it is a really good place to start. Now, I'm trying to spread the heat out as much as possible. You can quite easily warp something, so if you are trying to learn, don't put too much heat into it in one area. And if you keep stuffing up, don't stress, just grind it off and have another crack at it, but just let it cool first.
And this has to be hands down the cleanest welds I've done on a set of sliders to date, so I'm really happy with that. And I am loving the design, just a little bit different to my other ones, but I think once these are on the car and tucked up nice to that sill, these are going to look absolutely killer. Now the next part is making our chassis brackets. I can't put the slider up against there until we have our brackets ready to go. So like I said, these are the new design ones, so I'm going to get under the car and measure where these exactly need to go. The Patrol chassis, I always say chassis win, but the Patrol chassis is different thicknesses in different spots. So definitely got to measure. I might allow for like a little bit of extra movement in there just so it's not too hard to sandwich them up. The other trouble that I've got is we've got long arms on the car, which means that we probably can't have a mount right at the back there. So we're probably gonna have to do 2 mounts at the center and 1 at the front just to strengthen it up a little bit. I've actually had the sliders in my shed for a while, but I couldn't mount them without putting the long arms in. So last week, the long arms were fitted up. So now that they're in, that's why we're doing the sliders. And yeah, there's not too many places left under there to mount. Definitely can't interfere with that arm. So from here on back is pretty much a no-go. So we're gonna have to do like maybe 2 up the front and then, so we're gonna have to probably do 2 in the middle and then maybe 1 right up the front. Boys, I am trying to film. Now, I actually didn't realize, but Superior have a solution to this problem, but I'm not gonna race out and go and buy that right now. I'm gonna try and make my own, but I will be copying Superior Engineering's mount style. So the way that they do it is they make a mount that bolts onto this box. I've got to weld it on, and then you have another section that bolts onto the welded part. If I can get it mounted to this, that is going to be awesome, and that's also as far back as I can come. I don't really want to sneak up here and just have 2 mounts here and then 1 at the front. I think that's going to be really weak. So I'm going to try and make one to suit that. I'm going to use these 2 bits of flat stock. They're super thick. So if I can manage to make it, it's going to take me a while to make one side. I'll see how that goes, and then I'll see about making the other side. Right, it's now the next weekend because that took longer than I expected. I actually don't know why I didn't think about that long arm mount, but turns out we do need it. So I finished making up all the brackets that I need to make up, which is this two-piece one here. How this is going to work, if it works, is this is going to weld onto our long arm bracket, and then this piece here is going to bolt to that, and then our slider mount is going to come off this flat piece here. Pretty much get a tube, weld that tube on there. That is going to hold our slider on the back, and that's as good as it's going to get. I've also gone ahead and made these chassis brackets here because we need them on the slider as well, and we can only fit one of them. So the front bracket is also going to be custom, which is a lot easier than the back bracket. But what we need to do now is get under the car and start tacking on these brackets. To get this control arm out of here, I'm going to destroy it. So how this bracket is going to work is this piece here, I need to weld right there. And then this piece here will actually bolt to that. And that is where we're going to mount our slider from. So I'm going to get that welded in now. I've just flapped everything back to raw steel. And I wish I had done this when I had the chance the other week, but I didn't really think about it. So it is what it is. Right, that's the back mount all done. You can see it's all welded up, and I've also bolted that plate on. So now we can weld that somewhere there. Obviously you're gonna have to cut it short, and then that is going to mount to our slider. Then I've also fitted up the chassis bracket as well. So that will mount somewhat like that and mount to the slider. It is very important when you do these and you fit them up that you do tighten the bolt up the top. Otherwise, when you go to fit the slider at the end, everything is going to move. And it's also important to make sure that the bottom of this rail is flush with the chassis so you don't get any movement. It's now time to mount the slider up beside the car and get it to where I exactly want it. This is the best part about going a completely custom kit, is you can just do it exactly how you want it to look. I found the best way to do it in the past is with a set of jack stands and something that is adjustable for the angle. Then need to grab the slider and sit that on there, something like that. That looks good, eh? Now I know I got this thing from Kmart, but it's like an iPhone holder thing. The really good thing about that is you can just adjust it up to lift the angle up, or adjust it down to lift the angle down. So I'm gonna mess around with this and get it exactly how I want it, and then we can have a look. Ooh, hoo, hoo. That is the spot right there. How friggin' good does that actually look? It's sitting up nice and close, but not too close. On my GU, I went maybe a little bit too close, but you can see my gap right there is quite good on the sill. I don't know if you guys can see the welding magnet right there, and then there's one there, so it is square with the sill as well. So I've tried to think about every sort of angle, but I'm gonna lock that one in. I think that looks great. All the doors open and shut. You can see got plenty of clearance on that one. Not too much clearance on the Passo, but you know, that's just for a passenger, still enough clearance to open up. Back here, I don't have the flare on yet, which means that there will be a flare bolted on and it'll kind of fill this void up a little bit. But hopefully what this kicker does is pushes us off a rock wall or off a bank or whatever we're sliding on, and pushes the whole car back over. So you can slide along this section, hit this section, whole car gets pushed back off the wall. That's the theory anyway. Hopefully it works, but it is time to put the brackets on. Right, just banged out both of the sliders. You see that one there, and then I've got this one mounted up over here, and they are as even as I can get them, but how good do they friggin' look on there? Nice and angled, super aggressive, like comp style with that kicker. I absolutely love that style of slider. Kind of really depends if you're a wagon or a ute, how many mounts you've got, but we've obviously done the back one on the control arm. That mount, by the way, worked out really well. I'm super happy with that. But we've got the middle one as well, so it's time to do the one at the front. In front of a Patrol, you have this huge body mount looking thing, and you get these two tabs that come off of it. So Normally what I do is just run some flat bar straight off that tab and weld it onto the front of here. I've done 3 sets of sliders on a patrol. I've never had a problem with doing it that way. So yeah, we're going to do it that way again, and time to quickly whip that one up. Right, now the first thing you need is a piece of flat bar steel. I think this one's about 6 mil without measuring it, but anywhere from 6 to 10 mil you'll be right, because we are going to gusset it as well. Measuring from the body mount back to the middle of the tube of the slider, mine was 245. If you double that, that's 490. So you at least need a piece of steel double the length of what you're going to do. So at 245, we're going to put a dot right there. You then need a hole saw roughly about the same size as the tube that the slider is made out of. Mine's not quite perfect, but it's really close and it's not going to matter. So right on my dot, I'm going to hole saw. Beautiful. Let's break me drill bit. Sake. See why that drill bit was in my friggin' shit pile. And great. I just that one too. They're joys. Just broken 3 drill bits. None of my drill bits fit the hole saw. Give up. Ah, you bastard. The stuff that goes wrong in this shed is ridiculous. Normally I don't show it, but I'm going to put this on so you guys know that you're not alone when you battle in your car. Right, literally a 25-minute job, but once it's cut in half like that, you have a half circle, and that is to go onto your slider like that. It's not perfect, so you just cut the corners off just so it can sneak in a little bit further, and that gives you your body mount. So when you're done, you should have 2 pieces sort of looking like this. If you are doing a patrol, it might work on other things as well, but I just find that's the easiest way to get a semicircle is to hole saw right through something and then cut it. I'll get these mounted up, then I'll show you. I got that tacked up. You can see it right there. So just a half moon and then 2 bolt holes ready to be bolted. Right, so the next step is to now get the slider off, get it back up on the bench, weld all the gussets up, weld all the tacks up, and then we've got 2 sliders and we will be done. You guys can kind of now see what I was working with the mounts. If I wasn't explaining it before, you can kind of get a visualization now. But we need to finish welding all 3 of the mounts on each side. Then we're going to use these triangulated gussets, these things here. And we're going to go through and gusset everything that we can. That's not going to get in the way of anything. Because welding is such a big part of modifying full drives, I might give you guys a quick little rundown on the easiest way you can get into some welding. So a job like this is going to be perfect for you to learn on, and I'll show you just a little way that I even started on, and it's a good way to get a nice looking weld and a nice strong weld without being a good welder. Now I've got a Unimig, but most of them inside here have a chart that you can follow. So you can see 8mm steel, 3mm steel. For this method, what you want to do is double the setting. So if it was 3mm steel that you're welding, I want you to go to 6mm steel and turn the heat up a bit because we're only going to be doing tack welds. You want your wire sticking out about 10, 15 mil, something like that, just so you can get it stuck into the corner. And then when we weld, we're going to be going into the gap and then doing a little circle and then stopping. And you want to hold that on for as long as it takes to puddle that weld. I'll do a few and then I'll show you. We're going to just do tack welds. You can see those 3 tack welds there that we've just done. They look really good. It's kind of a cheats way to do it, but I'll do a few more and then you guys can kind of watch. Right, you can see in there all these spots that we have stopped and gone, but for a weld that is really strong and it doesn't look too bad.
That's actually how I first started welding. I just tack welded everything and never had a problem with strength or anything. It's definitely faster to just burn it in a straight line, but if you want to get into welding, that is definitely the best way to do it. I'm pretty happy with that, and you should be too. So get your welder and get into some sliders.
I put 2 on this one. You got to be careful that they don't get in the way of when you mount it up to the car, because if you put one in the wrong spot, it potentially would hit the sill. I couldn't actually do this one, but it was pretty well strong enough to just leave it how it is. And this is probably the most important one, so there's one on there that strengthened that up a heck of a lot. So we are ready to rumble. The sliders are finally done. What I'm going to do is take them outside and give them a coat of satin black. I've got all this paint left over, so we'd be mad not to use it and save ourselves some money. Once they're painted up, we can finally get them back on the car permanently, leave them on there and check them out and see how they look all painted up. I'm not going to get carried away with the paint. I'm just going to give these a quick little scuff up, get them in primer, get them in some black, and then get them back on the car.
I actually really enjoyed building this set of sliders. Having everything pre-bent and notched just makes life so much easier. I don't think I would even attempt it any other way. I will have an affiliate link down in the description below, so that if you do make a purchase through their website, I'll also get a kickback. So definitely check them out. I think it is the way to go if you want that custom look on your full drive. And let's be real, max protection, some of the off-the-shelf stuff, it's built to a price point. It's not built strong. It's thin steel. All of this stuff is super high quality and super easy to work with. So definitely check them out, and hopefully you will have an awesome set of DIY custom sliders.
Right, slider is all painted up, so it's time to fit them to the car, hopefully without scratching them. Now, if you get a look at that, nice and blacked up, looking good on the car, super aggressive. I love the way these things look. On the other side, we've got the same one, surprise. But yeah, sits really, really nice. This one did move a little bit. I noticed that when I open the door, I have about that much clearance, which isn't really a good thing, but we can't fix that anymore. That is the way it's gonna stay. Now the paint definitely is not the best. You can see I've got those little gremlins popping through again. Every time I paint with that black, I must admit I should probably throw it out, but every time I paint with that black, I get those little pop things, so I'd assume I'm doing something wrong. I definitely recommend, if you are painting these at home, to just use a rattle can, maybe some really strong high heat enamel or something like that. You'll get a very similar result, much cheaper, much easier to do, and it doesn't really matter, it's just a rock slider. But my God, I'm loving how these look. I really like that rear kicker, and it's really gonna help protect the car. You can see from this angle here, she's just gonna slide along the bank, pop it off, get to this back wheel, climb the rock, straight up Big Red. Maybe not, but yeah, these are certainly going to help protect the car, which is what they are designed to do. There's not too much more to say other than, if you guys are chasing a set of sliders for your car, to check out DIY Customs. You will not get a result that looks this good and protects the car as much as this protects the car out of the box from any of the brands that I know of. You potentially may, but come on guys, it's fun building your own stuff. So definitely recommend doing that, especially if you are learning how to weld. I think it's a great first project. But yeah, some other big things in the works for the car. I think the next couple of videos will focus on the interior, and hopefully I'm waiting on clutch and pump and stuff for the motor. So once I get those parts in, we can start playing around with the motor, but hopefully get the interior sorted soon. Once the motor's in, we'll get it registered, we'll start taking it out. So subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the future videos, and I'll see you guys hopefully in the next episode.